So the United States, unfortunately, has another problem. And this is what the FBI and their director, Christopher Wray, is actually calling a terrifying discovery. And this has to do with the U.S. southern border. But it's a shift away from what we used to know versus what we are now experiencing, which is a new reality. Now, I'm going to address what's going on here, why this is so terrifying, and what this means for us here in the United States. I will address that in just a moment. All I ask is one thing, takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So there's a lot of stuff happening here inside the United States. But one of the biggest things that is happening at this time is who is coming into the United States. Now, here's some troubling numbers. From October 1st to today, we have seen over 1 million illegal entries into the U.S. In 2023, over that same time from October 1st to today, we saw about 909,000 people. That is troubling. But it's how are we shifting away from that? What is happening at this time? Well, there's a couple things that are happening. First, we are not just experiencing individuals trying to enter through Texas. That is what we used to get years ago and even earlier on in 2023. But because of all the deterrence that Texas's state has been putting in place, we are seeing people go from Texas, now are shifting. They're going to California and they're going to Arizona. They're trying to pivot away from Texas entirely. Now, here's one of the issues. This is what the FBI is calling somewhat of a problem. They say instead of people just going through Texas, now we have to patrol the entire U.S. border, which is just baffling to me because why were we not patrolling the entire U.S. border to begin with? Now, here's what I can tell you. The FBI is calling this situation troubling and a terrifying discovery. And it has to do with Chinese nationals. First, Chinese nationals, according to the FBI Director Christopher Wray, are preparing to wreak havoc on American citizens and communities. But it's not just through cyber attacks like many people originally thought. Now, Chinese nationals are entering into the United States at an unprecedented number. Here is something that I want to show you. Okay? I want to show you this right here. This is a map. Okay? Obviously, it's a map. But we are concerned with this right here. We're concerned with our U.S. southern border. That's all this right here. Okay? The biggest threat right now is not Texas. And actually, Eagle Pass is right over here. Okay, Eagle Pass is right here. This is the hub, or was the hub, of where all people would be dropped off. Now, they're moving a little bit to the northwest, and they're coming up here to Arizona and to California. Now, the reason why this is a problem is because we don't have as many agents patrolling this area. But let's get back to why Chinese nationals are an issue. Here's what's going on. Normally, and let me just try to explain this. Normally what we've seen throughout the years is the majority of illegal immigrants were coming from Mexico. They're coming from Guatemala, from Nicaragua. We also saw, well, there's more as well. There's Honduras, El Salvador. Okay, that's what we were seeing. Now we're seeing more coming from Colombia. We're seeing more coming from Ecuador and Brazil. But also, we're seeing people coming from China. That's the issue. Now, here's what you need to understand. How are they getting from China to the United States? Well, it's actually through a big city in Ecuador called Quito. Okay, and let me show you that. Let me show you the trek that they have to make. So here it is. So you come from China, okay, over here, you fly all the way over here, come over the Pacific Ocean, and you enter into Ecuador. In Ecuador, into Quito right here, I believe that's their capital. Yeah, I believe that's their capital. Anyway, you come into Quito. In Quito, what you're going to experience is, well, for one, You do not, as a Chinese national, all you need is a passport. That's all you need. And you can enter into Quito. You can enter into Ecuador. But here's the interesting part. When you go to the bus station in Quito, you see somebody like this. This is the bus station, and look at this. There's a sign here in Chinese that is pretty much telling you how to get, and this is the bus route that you need to take to get into Mexico. Well, guess what? People jump on that, okay? They jump on that so that they can go and get to Mexico. Because I think you go to Quito, come up here to Medellin, come across through Panama, and you come up all the way up here, and you eventually enter into Chiapas, and you enter into Mexico. Well, here's the problem. We are now seeing more and more of this. Because if you go on TikTok, and there's a Chinese version of TikTok, you go onto some Chinese websites, they tell you exactly how to get into the United States. They tell you where to travel from China to get into the United States. If you cannot travel straight into the US, which many people can't, that's why they're coming over illegally. But here's what's going on. Mexico has asked the United States for additional assistance. And at this time, President Biden, he is attempting to put together some type of executive action so that he can make it a little bit harder to deter illegal immigrants into the United States. But here's where Mexico is saying, well, don't make it harder on us. Because Mexico, and again, this is why the FBI director is calling this a terrifying discovery, is because Mexico doesn't have the funding, doesn't have the resources in order to keep all these people in Mexico. Okay? So here's the problem. When people come into Mexico, they come in through Chiapas down here. What normally happens is they're pretty much just bust all the way up, right? Well, here's the issue. What usually happens is Mexico has their own, their own border patrol here at their southern border. The problem is they don't have the funding needed or necessary in order to slow down tens of or hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. They don't. If they have 20, 1,000, maybe a couple thousand that come through, they can slow them down. But here's the issue. They don't have enough agents patrolling the streets, and they don't have enough checkpoints to tell people, no, you got to go back. You cannot come through. You got to go back. Because what happens is you get tens of thousands of people that just come walking through. There's not enough agents to slow them down. They just can't. And so this is where Mexico is calling on the United States and President Biden to send more funding to Mexico. Also, send more funding to countries like Guatemala, Cuba, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador. Send more money there so that their country, their own country, can try to retain their citizens and make things better. Because what everyone is seeing at this time is how great the United States is. The land of the free. Everybody can work. Everybody can go to school. Women, children, right? Men, transgenders. Doesn't matter. You all have rights. That's what they're seeing. But again, it's not as sunny as many people expect. Because yes, even though you can work, you need a legal permit so that you can work. Are we just going to give you housing? Well, essentially no, but in this current administration, yes, everybody's getting housing. Everybody's getting free food. Everybody's getting health care. That's part of the problem, is that we are making it look like it's better than it is. And when people come here, they realize there's no free food, there's no health care, and there's no free housing. That's when we start to see threats. That's when we start to see attacks and assaults like what we've seen in New York. So I just wanted to explain what's going on right now because, again, the U.S.-Mexico border is experiencing a completely massive change that we've never experienced before. And this is why the FBI is calling this a terrifying discovery, because what they are noticing is that there's more Chinese nationals entering into the United States. And at this time, especially with the conflicts that we have with China, that's probably not the best thing. So that's what we know at this time. As always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. But that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.